This is my, the talk that I'm giving. You can see, who's laughing about that? Is that it's not gonna go long, but, I've got a lot of stuff I want to tell you. First of all, I'd like to introduce, Mr. Sam Brooks here, an archaeologist, a good friend of the collector, family, and he's helped Julian and I quite a bit. So Sam, welcome to Tupelo and welcome to this presentation. Are you grading us on this? Yeah. All right, so let me ask you this. How many in here knows a lot about the Chickasaw? Raise your hand. Okay, so I can make this talk pretty good. See, I can embellish it any way I want to. So historians, y'all don't stop me at this. So let me get my true talk out. But these are, Julian and I have been doing this for years. We have given hundreds of talks, really. And over the years, Julian and I have been, he is my colleague, I'm his. My talk will be a little more brief than his, probably. And don't anyone mention Elvis Presley while we're in here. I'd like for you to do that. So this morning I think it'd be appropriate for me to tell you a little bit about how I got started. And how many has found an arrowhead? One of the most fun things in the world, pick up an arrowhead, correct? I want to tell you, it sounds like I'm at an AA meeting. The first thing I want to tell you, I am a relic collector. I am a relic, an unashamed relic collector. I've hunted artifacts for years. To pick up an arrowhead is special for me. The beauty of the arrowhead, and not only that, the history of the arrowhead. So I am a collector. I'm 82 years old, and last week I bought 2 more items. I bought 2 nice celts from Pontotoc. You can't quit doing it. It's almost like an addiction. So when I got started, it was in Pontotoc on my grandparents' farm. They had a garden that they called the Indian Mound, and my brother and I would go out in the spring after the rain when they deep plowed. We'd find points. First time we went out, we found 54 points. 54 points. I mean, of course, I found 2 or 3, and he found 50-something. I got the points from him. He doesn't know where his went, so I still have those today. And they're right back there on that black plaque back there. So when in 1963, when I was asked to leave Mississippi College, I graduated there. My wife also asked me to get married. She asked me, and we did, and I finally married her. And my artifact collecting somewhat stopped at that time because I had to go to work. Number 2 is we started raising a family. So we bought a little house, guess where? In Lee Acres. Lee Acres is the home of Ackia, of Peony, and Chickasaw. That is where those 3 villages are located. So let me just say some other things. Since that time, the Chickasaw Nation and the collectors and the academics have gotten together more, and I think we've learned from that. Hopefully that keeps on working with the mint stuff and all that stuff. But we can share. Collectors are not always bad. You know, they can share their information and so forth. But the Chickasaws and Tupelo have really gotten together really good, in my opinion. We have Piomingo Day, which I have given that proclamation twice, which is quite an honor. We have an Encana. Encana is what would you call it, Julie? It's a group that's kind of an in-between group between the nation and the city of Tupelo. And they raise money. And so I think the Chickasaws are here today with their bus, the Unconquered and the Unconquered Chickasaws. They've also, through the Archaeological Conservancy, have bought 2 village sites. One is Chickasaw, the other is Chickasaw. And I believe Bradley, the archaeologist from the nation, is out there today. I'm not sure. So anyhow, they've done well. The Chickasaws have done well. They've also shortly, hopefully, they'll be started building the cultural center, $36 million cultural center. The Chickasaw have done very well under the leadership of Bill Anatubby and that group. So they're doing pretty well. I can tell you this, we flew out to Ada, Oklahoma, about the second year I was a councilman. They flew the council out there in a brand new Falcon jet. And I think those things retail for about $30 million. So they're doing really good. And I'm proud of them. They've got a candy manufacturing company. They have the largest casino in the world. I think maybe one of these days we'll have a casino here on Kings Creek. I don't know, what do you think, Jerry? That may be a thing to do, I don't know. But just like Boyd said, we're here today 287 years ago, the Battle of Ackia. What direction is Ackia, Julian? What direction is Ackia located? Right straight that way, where the three villages are. And this battle pitted the armies of the French with the Indian allies, which would be the Choctaw, against the Chickasaw Indians who lived here at one time. So then I can give you a little brief history of the Chickasaws. You keep me on time now. The first written account about the Chickasaws was found in the narratives of DeSoto, about the people that went on this, or not the people who went, I think one person went, the DeSoto narratives. Julian will give a good talk about that a little bit later. That took place in 1540. So the DeSoto came in this area with hogs, dogs, and horses. That's what he basically had. He really impressed the Chickasaw with the crossbows, the lances, the horses, all of that stuff, all of the stuff he brought with him. But the thing of it is, you'll find with the Chickasaws, it impressed them, did not intimidate them. So the Chickasaws actually treated the Spaniards with a lot of respect, but because of their demands, they did not fully trust them. As the DeSoto was preparing to leave the towns in March of 1541, he didn't ask, he demanded for 200 porters to go with him. And a lot of those, and maybe most of those, were young ladies. And so the chief of that tribe, of the Chickasaws, said he'd think about it. Well, he did think about it. He thought of a way and a plan to exterminate DeSoto. This happened in, I believe, March. And of course, you know March, what kind of weather we had. Had it not been for a huge storm that night, the Chickasaws would have wiped out DeSoto's entire army. So there again, they were unconquered with this battle. The next few years, the Chickasaws returned to their traditional way of life in spite of DeSoto not only brought pigs to this area or hogs to this area, he brought diseases. So a lot of the tribes, they went down. A lot of people died because of these strange diseases. They didn't have a lot of diseases back in 1540 among the Indians. So the next explorers after DeSoto were from Spain, France, and England. All were in competition to establish trade with the Indian nation and to gain control for their territory. You had Spain, France, and England. The English had begun trading with the Chickasaws in the late 1600s, and there were a lot of reasons for that. Number one, they loved the beauty of this area, and it is beautiful in the spring. According to James Adair, who lived with them back in the 1740s and 1760s, he liked the good-looking Chickasaw ladies. And so that was one reason they loved this area. Number three is the Chickasaw could provide the traders with deer skins. That's what they were trading for. And then later, they were trading for Indian slaves. The English were providing Chickasaw with weapons. They were going down to the Choctaws, and with those weapons, they were getting Indian slaves. They were very easily transported, much easier to get a slave and walk him to a certain place than skin a deer and take it to a certain place. Thank goodness that didn't last for about 10 years or 15 years. So guess what? The Choctaw didn't like the Chickasaw at that time. They just didn't like them at that time. I don't blame them. That stopped a few years after that because French started aiding the Choctaws with weapons and actually started paying for scalps of Chickasaws. The French did. So the French at that time had begun establishing colonies on the Mississippi River near present-day Natchez. They built a fort named Fort Rosalie, and there were a lot of conflicts between the English. There were conflicts between the French and those Natchez Indians, and so in 1729, the Natchez attacked Fort Rosalie and killed 250 Frenchmen and held many women and children hostage. A great war followed, and most of the Natchez were either captured or killed, except for a group from 800 to 1,000 that had fled to the Chickasaw Nation for protection, basically. At that time, the Chickasaw could use some of those warriors, for sure. So the French, of all things, came to the Chickasaws. The French said, listen, you guys are gonna have to get rid of those Natchez. I'm demanding that you get rid of them. Can you believe that? They asked them that. Of course, the Chickasaw said, look, we do what we want to do. You cannot tell us what to do. So, under the leadership of Governor Bienville, he started making plans to destroy not only the Natchez, but all of the Chickasaw as well. The plan was to have two armies, one from the north, the Argentine, one from the south under Bienville. Julian will be giving you that one, the Battle of Ackia, he'll be giving in just a moment. I will be giving the Battle of I love saying that word, Oglala-Chatoka, March 25th, 1736. And it was to be led, that army was to be led by a man, and forgive me for not being able to pronounce names, French names, the Argentine. And his army arrived at the villages of the Large Prairie, which point in that direction. That was up around McCullough Boulevard. Where is that located, Jude? Will you point in that direction?
Right there where the truck stop is at Belden.
So that was the Large Prairie. Am I talking too fast? That's the Large Prairie. And so they were coming down from Memphis to attack. They were supposed to meet at the villages. And he had been advised, the architect had been advised by a courier that Bienville had some problems coming up the Tombigbee River, if you can imagine that, and he was going to be delayed. So he was there with a group of, he had 130, let me see, he had 130 Indians with, had 130 Indians with him and all that, but they decided, the Indians and the French decided that they would, they saw a small village at Big Town is what we call it, on McCullough. And they said, well, what we'll do is, what we will do is we'll attack this little village. We're tired, we're worn out, we don't have any food. Bienville slowed down, so we can't do anything. So they decided to attack that village of Oglala-Chatoka early, and they made a huge mistake. So these, if you see over here, they had these little houses made like this. They were fortified using mud. They had pilings. I mean, to assume that the Chickasaw didn't know where the French were was crazy. They knew exactly where they were. So the Argentine didn't last long, and he was basically wiped out. The Indian mercenaries that were with him left, and the Argentine, he got shot 3 times, I believe, and got killed. And so they were burned at the stake. And so most of the Indian allies fled and left a few Indians to defend themselves. Many French and Indians were killed and 22 Frenchmen captured, including the Argentine. They were later executed by burning at the stake. Julian and I had hunted this area many, many times. Years ago, my son and I were hunting that area, and you see this right here is a granado. And I found one up there close to where Julian and I think the village was, fully loaded. I took it home. I didn't know it had a hole in there. This is a replica. And so I started cleaning it up, stuck my hole in there, and black powder in there. They would take these things, the grenadiers would take these and throw them over the forts and blow up whatever they could with this. This one didn't go off. So that kind of indicated to me that Oglala-Chatoka was in the area that Julian and I were hunting. And I believe he found a trench of burned material that could have been the same trench that the French did to burn a French priest and the French that were left there. So that right there is one battle that is equally, in my opinion, as important as the Battle of Ackia. So now that segues into Mr. Riley's talk, the Battle of Ackia.